Hey everybody, how's it going? I just wanted to jump on real quick here from the beautiful sandy beaches of Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. I'm not actually on the beach right now. That would be a disaster because it's super windy. But I just wanted to jump on and give you a quick heads up. One, I apologize. Given the circumstances of being on vacation, I am posting this a little bit late. But we're getting it out there, staying consistent with once a week, which is my goal for this show. So there's that. Just an apology for not being too consistent, but I'm still getting this out. Second thing, if you are listening to this interview coming up with the Wilson brothers, I know that there are a lot of people in the community that have listened to them. They know their story, and some of their kids also know who they are. There is a lot of cursing in this episode. There are multiple F-bombs that are dropped, and I'm completely okay with that. I'm sorry if you are not. Unfortunately, you may have to skip this episode and jump to the next one. But for the sake of the children, I would just like to give you a heads up that there are some F-bombs in there, just so that you know. All right. Here we go.
If I can walk up to someone and sell them that bottle, or like have someone that's related to this family, or like invested in helping us out, like if we can sell all our bottles of wine with someone hearing our story, that's like ideal. Like
Yeah.
we would love to just be able to like keep like spreading the word about what's going on out here and like the community that's kind of being built behind it, because it's super cool. And it's not just another brand out there like throwing a label on a bottle. Like we take it from start to finish, and there's a ton of fucking people that are involved in that and helping out, and it's really cool once you kind of dive in and see what goes on behind the scenes.
And welcome back to another episode of the Do It For Yourself podcast. If this is your first time checking in, my name is Ian, and this is my podcast. Each week I have the opportunity to sit down with someone who is doing it for themselves, and that means that they're doing something, they're chasing a dream, they're working towards a goal, whatever it may be. They are doing it because they want to, not because someone told them that they have to or it's what they should be doing. So this is not something that is being done in a selfish manner, but it's something that the person has always had the passion, the drive, the eagerness to take on this challenge, and they are finally doing it because it's something that they have wanted to do. This week, I have a perfect example of that in Zach and James Wilson. The Wilson brothers started a vineyard, and they started it on some land that their parents had owned. And we're going to get into this story really, really deep here and talk about, what it was like when Zach placed his first order of vines and how many he ordered and everything. But just to give you a short synopsis, Zach had an idea to start a vineyard. Wine was something that he was very passionate about, and it was something that he really wanted to get into. And so he did. He jumped in with both feet, and he pulled his brother James in, and James ended up, kind of working in the industry a little bit, and we get into how that's helped them. I really don't want to give too much away because I just enjoyed this interview so much. So why don't we just get into it? This is my interview with the brothers of WayVine.
Yeah, let's cheers to this Merlot. What is this, 2016 vintage? Pretty proud of it. Starting to get some mature grapes. Everything's going real well out here. We're having a blast and learning a lot each year, and got a lot more to learn. So we're ready to do it.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm sure there was a little bit of a learning curve, and we'll get into that for sure. But I just took a tour around, and I mean, the property is just absolutely beautiful. And I'm here at WayVine. I'm on the vineyard. We're here. This is what you consider like the tasting room. So we're out here on the patio, having a little bit of the 2016 Merlot. So just for people who are not wine aficionados, a 2016 vintage means that that's the year that you made it.
So yes, so these grapes were harvested. We harvest in the fall. September, October is usually the only time of the year grapes come in, and we harvested these in 2016, probably early October. So they sat in a barrel for a year before they went into a bottle, and they've probably been sitting in that bottle for about 8 months now, which is still kind of young for a red. Like, we'd like our reds to be backed up a little bit more, but
they're tasting great.
They're tasting great. We're selling out of supply here, and some things we need to bring out a little bit earlier than others, and other things we're right on track with, and we're real happy with the way this is tasting right now.
And I mean, normally I'm like, if I drink wine, it's usually Cab.
Okay.
So, but that's like, I enjoy that. I like that. I mean, I think it has a great taste to it. And I'm sure there's a huge difference between locally grown, locally sourced grapes made from, like, you guys could track everything. You could tell me probably almost exactly where those grapes came from, and, you know, a boxed wine.
Well,
like,
the whole thing with it being local is it is local. So, like, the terroir, the grapevine, the climate, the soil, the conditions that go into it, the slope of the land, the you know, just the way you train everything, like that's the terroir of the grapevine. And Pennsylvania's terroir is going to be a little bit different than France. It's going to be a little bit different than Italy, a little bit different than Napa Valley. But we're growing those European grape varieties, you know, that they grow out in California, that they grow all over the country, and we are distinguishing like a very unique flavor. We're trying to put Pennsylvania on the map, and I think that our farm is starting to display like some pretty genuine flavors, aromas, consistent with each year. The soil type is like coming through in the grapes. Like, you know, we have a little bit more acidic wines than some, but I think it really balances out with like the weather conditions out here. And you know, I'm just very happy with the consistency year in to year out. Like, the weather's different every year, but we're getting a very consistent product of wine that is just gaining like maturity and gaining complexity each year, and we couldn't be more thrilled with it. So we're still young, and we, you know, learn more each year, but we're excited to see how far we can take this, and how good we can do, and how well we can put Pennsylvania on the map.
so before we get into putting Pennsylvania on the map, I want to like provide some context for everybody that's listening, and I want to go back to first where we met. We met at the Y.
Yes, sir.
You guys were swimming.
Well, James was swimming. I was coaching at the time. I think you were.
No, you were
lifeguarding, right?
You swam. I was lifeguarding, but I think you swam. You swam your last year.
I was finishing up my senior year.
Yep,
Okay.
you swam your senior year.
We were both swimmers, and
Yep.
then I coached for a couple years, and while he was swimming, and
You were best friends with our best friends. So
Yeah.
one of our
Yeah,
best friends.
yeah, kind of like all, kind of all wove.
so everybody was kind of interlinked that way. And yeah, man, it's great to run into you again. You're looking great.
Yeah,
and,
thank you. I
good
appreciate
to,
that.
Good to see you.
So, when you were finishing up your senior year, and then we got to hear from James too. What were your plans when you were finishing up your senior year of high school, and where did you want to go? What did you want to do? Did you have any idea?
My plans at the time were partying my ass off. I think my brother's plans, what were you doing? Primarily like in the prime of his swimming career and stuff. I went to college because my mom told me I needed to, and I'm more of like a hands-on learner. I think we we both are, and you know, I didn't gain too much there, but I got the whole idea for this place probably about a year after what we're talking about at the Y, and that's when we started putting it together, and it's just been, the rest is history after that, you know.
And you didn't take your swimming into college?
No, I did not. No.
Okay.
I considered it, but I wasn't at the same level that James was going into college. He was a college swimmer, you know, Olympic trial qualifier, captain of the Penn State swim team, All-American. You know, shout out to James. Kid worked his ass off. It's a tough sport to do, but I just wasn't there, and I couldn't put the time into it. I wanted to put my time into something else, and I've always been passionate about farming, and, you know, we own a lot of land out here, so we wanted to do something with.
Yeah, James was telling me it's like 260 acres that you guys have. That's crazy. So I want to get into James and your whole journey through Penn State and, you know, going swimming up there.
Yeah, man.
You're swimming up there. So were you a captain or anything your freshman year?
No, so I started out my freshman year, and I came in as like a utility guy, just kind of swam all the strokes, and I guess they brought me on to like do some relay spots or something like that. And I don't know, freshman, sophomore year, I trained my ass off and did all right, but not like where I wanted to be. And then my junior year, I had just really tight-knit relationships with most of the kids on the team. So, like, my junior year and my senior year, the coach wanted to make me a captain. So just because everyone was already coming to me, and I don't know, I talked to everyone pretty much on a personal level. But those 2 years, I realized it was more of what I wanted to do was, like, take advantage of being in college. Like, I realized I wasn't going to swim the rest of my life. My brother started a vineyard out on our property, and like in the back of my mind I was always thinking about the vineyard. And like my last year I did an extra semester, and pretty much every single weekend I made the 3-hour drive like home to help out, because I was just so excited about being back here with everything going on here. And like
16 planting grapevines?
Yes, 16 planting grapevines. Zach was 19 when we started, and like it's just not even able to drink wine yet. And he had an idea that he wanted to grow some grapes and hopefully definitely sell them, but make some wine too. And I don't know, it kind of turned into something cool. But
And so even though you had a very successful swimming career while you were at Penn State, you had zero aspirations of continuing your swimming after that.
No, not really. I got to a point in swimming where I was just kind of checked out, and I feel like a lot of people in Division I athletics, like they own you. So like I lived there, I got 10 days at home throughout the year, so like I missed my family and stuff, especially what we had going on out here. But yeah, basically I realized that you needed to have fun, and like I started having more fun at school and stuff. And actually I got, like, even though my training, I didn't get as much sleep before training and stuff, I did well in training, and I ended up swimming way faster. But I think it was just mentally I was a little less stressed and not caring as much about being an Olympic swimmer and just doing it to finish out the year and have fun with my friends. And that was a big game changer. So.
I mean, you just took me on a tour of the whole property here for the most part. And, you know, you showed me the cabin where you guys grew up. You showed me the pool. You showed me, like, the stream. You showed me everything. So I can't imagine for you only being able to come home for 10 days out of the entire year after a 15, 20-minute ride, you know, and seeing the passion that you have just for this property alone. Like, I don't.
Well, I can't, like, from the beginning, like, I definitely, like, my head was in swimming. Like, that's what I wanted to do. Like, I was just, like, a collegiate athlete. I don't know, I did it since I was 5, so, like, you know that. But once, like, I can't say I was always just crazy passionate about the vineyard. Like, Zach, since the day he mentioned it, was, like, obsessed with it. And, like, the fact that he ordered as many vines as he did from the start was just, like, to all of us was a huge shock. And it was, like, someone that was, like, actually going after it and doing it. So I don't think I got to that level, and I definitely am not on the same level of just, like, crazy obsession with such a, like, beautiful project, but I definitely care a ton about it. And that didn't happen until probably that last year of school, once I finally realized that swimming isn't what I'm going to do, and I was going to go into a different major and did that for a little bit, but I don't know. Now everything is just working strategically towards doing this the rest of my life, so I think
So,
Zach feels the same way.
Zach, I know, James, you finished school. Zach, did you finish school?
Yeah, I did. I actually started this my sophomore year, so finally made it up the main campus. I was doing satellite campuses freshman and sophomore year, and I finally made it up there my junior year. And I wanted to be home every weekend doing this stuff, so I'd come home every weekend, planted the vines in the spring, and had a whole nother summer and fall of school and everything. And we came home all the time and got all this going, and I was ready to be done. But I did finish.
So weren't the biggest college.
Yeah, definitely more hands-on student than book comprehension and stuff like that. But we can get some work done if we do it.
Now, at the age of like 18, 19 years old, where did this passion for wine come from?
It all started as like a farming passion. Like, I've been cutting the grass on this farm since I was 9 years old. Probably like 12 acres of grass every year. Like, up until these last couple of years, my cousin just started taking over for me. Shout out to Spencer Duncan. He does a great job out here. Keeps the place looking great. But I cut the grass all the time.
Get into that, like our families.
Yeah,
right
but that's another thing aside. We'll talk about them in a minute. But the farming has just been, just helping fix up the fence here and there with my uncle or my dad, cutting up trees, firewood. We've always wanted to do stuff on this farm. And my dad and his 6 brothers, sisters were farmers on this farm up until about 30 years ago. And they were dairy farmers. They got out of it, and we just rented out the land. Everybody got jobs, and the place is actually supposed to be developed and turned into like big commercial housing project and stuff. And that all fell through, and we just got the idea to do something with the land. And the vineyard sounded great to me. Somebody mentioned that. Me and my dad were driving down the road one day, started talking about it. Me and my cousin Dan, we started researching it a lot more, and just fell in line after that. And the whole wine came from, the farmers don't make anything. They're the smallest chunk to like a retail product. And if you can take the product to the end, then, you're going to be a little bit more profitable with it. So that's what we did with the wine. And what cooler product than wine? We have like tastings and great people out here every weekend, and it's a lot of fun. It's a really cool product to go from ground to bottle, and like nothing in between. It's all us.
Now, that wasn't the initial plan either.
Nah, the initial plan was just to grow grapes for a little bit. I thought we'd be selling grapes for 5 years and start getting into wine and like slowly grow from there. And like, I realized real quick we wanted to get into wine, and
not just the grapes, like not just growing the grapes
Yes.
and then selling the grapes. You
Yep.
wanted to do everything.
So the very beginning, we made like a very small bit just to practice the first year, sold the little bit of grapes we got that second, third growing season. Fourth growing season, it was kind of half and half. Fifth growing season, it was like we sold a little bit, and we're making a lot more now. And it's just, and now we're making all of our stuff. It's all estate grown, and everything is done out here. We're not really selling grapes anymore. But the initial thing was just, let's put some grapes in the ground and be grape farmers. We'll start a vineyard. It sounds like a cool thing to do.
Yeah. And so when you decided you were going to order these vines, you were going to plant them, like, where do you even start? Like, I mean,
Okay,
is there like...
So all I did was go to a little Penn State seminar thing they had in Lancaster. They basically just told you like how to dig a hole and put vines in, stuff like that. And I was just like, all right, well, I started running numbers, and I came home, and about 3 weeks later, I ordered the first batch of vines for the following year, because our vines come grafted. most in the world do at this point, since like everybody's all mixed together, and we have a American rootstock grafted onto a French vinifera vine. They do the same thing in Napa Valley. They do the same thing in France now. There's a whole reason for it, this phylloxera virus that went around, but we won't get into that right now. But we got our vines grafted a year in advance, and my dad asked me, like, oh, you ordered vines, like, what'd you end up doing? And I was like, well, we got an acre of Merlot, an acre of Chardonnay, and 2 acres of Cab Sauv, like 3,200 vines. And he was like, are you out of your mind? And everybody around here is like, are you crazy? Like, what, like, do you even know what you're getting into?
Don't forget he's 19.
I'm 19 years old. Like,
But I mean, all you're doing is growing grapes. Like, there's no rules against that, right?
Yeah, but there's
like,
a lot of trellis to build. You got to get everything in. Like, we knew nothing about, like, spray programs and, you know, diseases, disease management, even like quality of grapes at that point. It was just an idea. Had a little bit of knowledge, bought a book on Eastern grape growing production, like on the East Coast, something like that. It's kind of like a textbook that I followed for a little bit, and we've done really well with it. My dad couldn't sleep for weeks before we put in all those vines. I always tell this story to everybody that he was always like, you know, how are we going to get all these vines in the ground? What are we going to do? I'm like, we're going to get some help. We're going to get them all in. Don't worry. We're going to be golfing by Sunday. So vines come, I think, like Wednesday night. We start putting them in Thursday, or like Wednesday night. We plant like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and they're all in by Saturday night. And
Play golf.
no, we didn't play golf on Sunday. We were way too exhausted. We couldn't move on Sunday. But we got them all in. And I was like, Dad, I told you. So every year the whole thing is like, he's like, are we going to get any help? Is anybody coming? I was like, Dad, don't worry. We're going to be golfing on Sunday, man. And like, we never make it, but we could have. And like,
And so, where did you, like, once the vines showed up and you knew that you were going to plant them, how did you figure out how it needed to be put in the ground? Like, where the wiring was supposed to go, the proper height. Like...
So like I said, I did follow like some guidelines on that, and we, to this day, I think the first year of planting was one of the best we did. I don't know how we lucked out. Everything just, those vines have come up so well. The conditions were great that year. We kept everything in line, and we just kind of went off the same guide. We're in our 9th year, and we've only missed 1 year of planting. So we've done 8 plantings, expanding from 4 acres to 18 acres. And it's just all been working out since that first year. So we've never changed up the process. And it was kind of just like all of this, a lot of trial and error. And luckily, like, very little error. And it's just been working out for us.
Funny you hear that a lot.
Do you have this? And do you have this written down anywhere? Like your whole, like your process and.
I have 9 years of journal, and it's like color coordinated on.
With different color
Okay, no,
Yeah,
that's
like,
what I wanted to know.
It's like
All
the
right.
blue means this, the red. Like I have 9. I'm a nerd in that way, but like I keep track of it, and it comes very in hand. Like sometimes I wish I was a little bit more in depth, and like it comes very in hand, like year to year. I mean, at this point, we're able to just. We could go through the year without writing anything down, and it's been similar to this year, and things kind of go on a pattern, like regardless, and we know what we're doing at this point, but it's very cool to record it and just have like 20 pages of like stuff we've done over the last couple of years, dates and times. And
Oh, yeah, it's going to be cool as shit to go back and look at that,
yeah.
You know, another 10 years from now, because you're almost at the 10-year mark, right?
Yeah, so the goal was to get 20 acres in 10 years, and we're at 18 in 9. We had vines ordered this year, but I'm getting married in June.
Yeah, in a couple weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Shout out to Trish.
shout out to Trish. Love you, babe. And yeah, so I just decided to hold off this year. We got 2 acres coming next year, so that put us right at where we wanted to be. And I thought that was a long shot goal. I always like shoot really high. When it comes to like setting goals and stuff, and we hit it. We're right there, and we're ready to we got goals for tomorrow, next week, 6 months from now, and 10 years from now, and like I'm ready to hit all of them.
Yeah, one of them's the barn down there.
Oh yeah, that's going real well.
Yeah, it is. It looks great. And I saw what it looked like on the other side, you know, which is still pretty cool looking.
Yeah.
You know, with the dirt floor and everything, but the concrete slab and, you know, those big barn doors and, yeah, everything down there looks really awesome, too. So, and that's where you're going to have your wedding, right?
Oh, yeah.
So that kind of makes sense. Like, it's where it's,
And
you know,
we
it's
got
where
people,
it all started.
we got people calling in to do weddings and stuff all the time, just people that have seen it and everything. And I'd say we're about a year out from even, you know, really starting to do anything like that. But right now it's just a commercial facility for us to be on a little bit larger scale than the 3-car garage that we had 30 barrels and 15 tanks stuffed into. We got to be setting some kind of record at that point. Made 20,000 bottles in a 3-car garage, but I'm pretty proud of it. And, but this last year we had this new facility, and it was a game changer. We had real equipment, and I was a little like nervous about like going from almost home winemaker to commercial equipment stuff, which should make like a better wine and everything. And I'm very happy with like the turnout of it. Everything's on par. You know, you can taste the maturity in our grapes, and I feel like everything's just a little bit step up from like when we were doing it up here at the house.
Now, there was something that you had mentioned that I want to go back to, and I know James definitely wants to, you know, say something about this. But when the vines first showed up and Dave was worried about getting them all in, where did you pull from? Who did you pull to come and put all those vines in? Because I saw it. I mean, it's just like row after row after row. So I want you to talk to me about that Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, like, and who was here. And
well, the first year, you know, there was a dozen people that came out to help us over the weekend, maybe more, maybe less, but in 9 years, 8 different plantings, there's been that many people every other year. And during harvest season, even more. We're up to having like 30, 40 volunteers. We throw them a big party at the end of the year, and like we got so I wish I could just name everybody right now off the top of my head, and I could for the most part, but it'd be a long list of names, and we couldn't do it without all you guys. We really couldn't. We couldn't do it without everybody.
And when we were down in the barn when we were strolling around, and James said something while we were down there, so I won't steal your thunder. I'll let you definitely repeat it here, but you said something about both you, your brother, your parents, uncles, cousins who are around here.
Yeah, basically it's just we like to get this across to everyone too. Like, yeah, Zach's definitely the mastermind behind all this. Like, without him and without his like, fuck it, let's go do this nature that nobody in this world seems to have anymore, but like he was just about like getting into it and going to do it. But after that happened, he had a team rally behind him, and like between my parents and what they've done and like the way they raised us, like that was a huge aspect in like getting to where we are. But I mean, just today, for instance, we had 3 different people that are either family members or friends that just came by for a couple hours today to help us put a roof on the barn or finish up thinning the grapevines. And it's like that every single weekend. Like I got 2 cousins that live in Philadelphia that come down every single weekend, just volunteering their time to help us out with like our passion, our dream, and now it's their passion and dream. And same with multiple other family members and cousins that are out here every weekend. And just, yeah, basically like we take this farm and like we almost sold the farm, and all of a sudden now it's in this land grant act, and my brother became a farmer again and is growing grapevines, and all the family that used to hang out and swim at the pool 50 years ago when my dad built it, like all that is coming back again. And like the family's hanging out here on the weekends, and everyone's revolving around this business, and it's really cool. And it's like, it's not only just family, it's like all of our friends, like those people that come out and help pick. It's 30 people that some of them have been to every single pick every single year and won't miss, and they're hanging out here every weekend. and they're eating dinner with our family. And I don't know, we like to, everyone that gets a chance to experience WayVine usually leaves feeling like they're part of the family, which is like a huge thing here. We definitely want people just having the best experience that they can.
And you said that they come out because they believe in you guys, they believe in this farm, they believe in this, and they believe in your passion, and they're not.
Yeah, and it's that, like, passion's huge, and like the community we build out here, it's like all of these people, those 30 people, by the end of the day, burning together, they're best friends. And like even outside that, like, it's just fun. Like, we're fun out here. We're playing frisbee, we're playing hacky sack, we're getting a lot of work done. Like, we work from when the sun comes up till it goes down, pretty much 7 days a week, 11 months out of the year. And that 1 month when we're not in the fields doing shit, we're still doing sales and stuff. And like, so we work a lot, but we're labeling wine at that point. But basically, I don't know, whenever we're not working, like, we squeeze as much fun out of those limited times that we have, and we spend it with the right people, which is, fortunately for us, our cousins and a couple really good friends that are out helping us out all the time. So it's pretty cool.
And so you guys went from, not really wanting to sell or to make the wine. You were just going to sell your grapes and that's it, just be the grower. And now you're making them. Kind of take me through the process of that first shipment of vines to then where you went after that. And did you have a vision aside from knowing that you wanted to be at 20 acres in 10 years? Or was it just, let's keep going, let's keep trucking, let's keep...
It always is, let's keep going, let's keep trucking. The 20 acres thing came pretty shortly after, and also, like, we wanted to grow grapes in the beginning and had every intention of making wine. It just happened way sooner than I thought it was. I thought it would be a long way down the road, and we'd finally get there. And like, but yeah, I mean, I gotta say, like, the same thing is like with planting the stuff, like with making the wine and everything. It's just a lot of trial and error, very little error. That's kind of like my go-to line out here anymore, because I get asked the same questions all the time.
Yeah.
But we just found something we're very passionate about, and it worked out for us. And we're doing like an old school method of like just like old vine, old wine type thing. Like, we do our work up front with the grape, and we believe that like 80% of like the product is coming like from the vineyard. The fact that we crush our grapes a half hour after they're picked, they go into vats. We select like specific yeasts and stuff like that for them. We've also like experimented with some natural fermentations out here and stuff, and we're very happy with like all the results. And we just let the wine sit after that. We don't mess with it. It goes either into a vat or a barrel. We might do like a little work a couple months down the road or something, but we let it, a home winemaker told me one time, like, you got to let this, like, in the very beginning, you got to treat it like it's a child, like, kind of baby it in the beginning, pamper it in the beginning, get it going, but then you want to let it grow into its own thing. And that's kind of how I'm treating our wine. We do our work up front, and we just let it sit. And we've had the same exact approach from day one, with just trying to innovate and tweak things every year to get a little bit better. But we're still going with the same method.
And that's what James was saying when we were coming back up here, that, by the time all of your harvesters have gone through, usually within 30 minutes of them clipping off that last grape, like, it's already in there, and it's already getting crushed. And there is no, like, putting it on the back of the truck and then driving it over here and keeping it and
or just letting it sit all day and do it. We just do it as we go. It's even gotten to the point where we have so much help out here anymore that I'll go out as the one running this place, and I pick like maybe 5 grapes, and then we have so much help, they're coming in already, and we got to go down and process them. So everybody kind of messes with me and busts on me about like, oh, you're not even up here picking the grapes with us anymore. But like, we don't have much of a choice. Like, it's all about the wine and the quality of the product, and we got a good crew behind us.
And so for harvest, do you harvest all of your vines all at the same time? Is there like, okay, usually around like late August, early September, we're going to harvest these, and then, or does it depend on when you planted them?
It definitely depends on the varietal. So like some stuff will start to come in earlier. Like our whites are definitely going to come in before our reds. We start with like the Riesling, and then we just kind of move.
Early September.
Yeah, early September it starts, and then we'll move through until we're finishing with what was Cab Sauv the last thing this past year.
Cab Sauv and Barbera usually mid-October.
Yeah, like mid-October, and that's when we finish up. But yeah, pretty much every weekend for those like 6-7 weeks, we harvest a different varietal, and it just all depends on what's ready. But yeah, for about 6-7 weeks, we got 30 people out here every weekend volunteering all of their time for just to help us succeed. So it's pretty sweet.
And was that all trial and error too, figuring out what needs to be harvested?
Yeah, I mean, we've been doing this now like 9 years, and a lot of it, I mean, you can literally taste the grapevine or taste the grapes and then do like a couple sugar content and everything and see when the grapes are ready to be picked and whatnot. But it works out pretty well for us to be able to get on the weekends. Every once in a while we're scrambling last minute to get something done on like a Wednesday or Thursday just because they're just in prime picking and we need to get it done. And then we make a couple calls, and our good friends are out here in no time willing to do whatever we ask. And we have plenty of bottles of wine open for them afterwards, so they're always happy.
No, that's awesome. And I think the fact that you didn't go and take a class, or you didn't go and, aside from the book that you read, in the very beginning, or the class where they showed you how to like plant the vines, like I think that speaks to the amount of passion that you have for this, and you guys wanted to just figure it out by yourselves, and you wanted to test things, and you didn't want to listen to somebody else who was saying, okay, you need to plant this vine this way, and then it's going to be, it's going to be ready to be harvested exactly 6 months after. And then, you know what I mean? Like, you guys you wanted to do it on your own because this is yours. Like, it's way.
Well, I'll speak to that because I know Zach's like modest and probably won't, but like he legit, like even when it comes to building this winery, what he's done is unbelievable. But like when it comes to the winemaking and everything, he legit is doing everything based off of like his feel. Like, I look at, he would like it. He probably hates I'm even talking about him like this, but like you look at him and he's a fucking artist, man. Like he's taking these wines, not knowing anything about it, and he's tasting them. He knows what he wants to taste out of them, just based on like what has worked and what hasn't worked in our vineyard. And he's creating things by feel and by taste and by just what like he knows and feels is right in his mind. Like, he doesn't go and get a bunch of like different tests on the wines and check every single different level and different thing like that, just because he's doing it kind of like by feel, which I don't think a lot of people do. But it's making our wines are turning out awesome, and we trust what he's got going on in the winemaking process, and we're helping him grow the best grapes that we can so he can do that. But I wanted the dude, it's crazy. Like, the guy can make wine, and then he's also building a 6,000 square foot winery with his bare hands for his wedding that he had a year to get it done, and the dude's been doing it. So it's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
We're impressed.
And one thing that I want to ask you, and I want to find out from both of you, is like, you've always been hard workers, and you've always had to, put your head down and go from the time that you were 5 when you were swimming. Yeah. Like, so, that's what I was just going to say. Like, do you think that that there were things in your life and in that point in time that you learned that you're now transferring over? I mean, James, you just told me you were up at 5 to drop your car off to get inspected, and you were in the field by like 6. Like,
I mean, that's been standard in our lives for so long, but like, Yeah, I mean, in swimming, we were the same way, and like we both will admit it 100%. Like I know Zach agrees. Like that gave us a work ethic like no other. Just sports in general, like having to get up in the morning and go to practice, like training all the time, like
Yeah, man, I would have just been another bro, like hanging out with my buddies and stuff. But
drinking, doing drugs, doing like making poor decisions.
Swimming definitely gives you a work ethic that I would recommend it to any young athlete or anybody that's willing to do it. Swimming up and down the same lane every single day really like kicks your ass. And
well, and I mean,
it's kind of the same thing out here, just going up and down those roads.
Right,
every
exactly.
day.
I mean, you guys are constantly going. It's just up and down the roads. You're just, and the grapes might look a little different. Some of them might look white. Some of them might look red. But like you're looking at the same shit every day.
Yeah.
But the same with swimming. The thousands and thousands and thousands of meters that you put in, just staring down there at that black line. It all ends up paying off.
Definitely molded us into who we are today.
Yeah, I mean that's like I don't know. That's the whole thing. Like you get into these things and we're working towards something. Like we're like what we do out here. We're able to go out there and like we're our own bosses. Like we get to go out and choose what we're gonna do that day. And the grapevines are actually our bosses. I'd say because it's whatever's needed to be done. But we go out there and we're able to get it done and. We get to, like, I don't know, be on our farm, on our land, doing our thing, and we don't have to answer to someone, which is nice.
Well, I think that's why we have such a great following, too, like, other than just, like, a generational, like, community thing going on out here. Nobody's, I guess I'm the one in charge, I'm the boss, but, like, I don't want that title.
You don't play that card.
Nah.
Right.
Yeah, Zach doesn't want that, and like the people that are here, no one looks at it that way. Everyone just looks at it like, oh shit, it's WayVine. Like, there's something that needs to be done. Let's go do it. And like, no one's looking for credit or looking for, I don't know, just like to be the top person. And that's what's so. I think Zach.
Definitely not looking for a salary.
Yeah, no salaries for sure. And I think that's like Zach kind of. I mean, it all stems from whoever's like leading you, even though he won't say that he's a leader in that way. But like, I don't know. It all comes from that person. So I think he's molding a pretty good crew out here that he's telling people to follow what like you want to do, what's passionate, what drives you. Like if you want to help out, come help out, and like you can be a part of this. If you don't want to, come have a glass of wine and sit around. Like it's not, we're not gonna force you to do anything, and we love and are very fortunate to have the people we have around us that want to be a part of it.
And Zach, were you in this full time from the very, very beginning, or were you working a job?
No, I worked. I worked like 2 jobs in the beginning, full time, overtime. I've been doing it for years, and up until about 3 years ago, I started taking some time off, doing it part time, and now it was for my Uncle Scott's company. I worked there for like 5-6 years, and now he's begging me to come back in the fall. Just put in a couple months, I mean, he's real good to me as well. Keep me around doing all that, but it was a lot of work in the beginning. I mean, we still work just as many hours right now, but they're not just at night anymore. It's all day. I get to spread out my time, bounce back and forth between all the different jobs and everything. And, I'm still, at this point, going back in the fall, working for my uncle.
And so you're still, you currently, like, you still have a job. You're a W-2 employee somewhere?
Yeah, not making too much. My taxes last year definitely were a huge drop from the year before. I didn't spend too much time at work last year, but I'm trying my best,
Yeah, and I'm sure it helps out. Like every little bit helps out, like when you guys are a little bit more established and you're selling some wine, so you can take that money and, put it back in and use that to buy more vines.
That's where it's all going. So like that's what people are super impressed about as far as like business owners and people who have been out here. Like
James, make sure you touch on that too.
Yeah, we've done all this and like we've paid it off as we go. As far as like a lot of it was coming out of my pocket in the beginning. My parents have helped me out here and there, like as we've needed stuff. James has invested in this, and now that the winery is producing capital and we're selling out of wine every year and stuff, we have not put any of it into our pockets. It's all gone right back into more tanks, more barrels, more space, more vines, and we're very close to that point where, hopefully we're going to be able to make a living out of this in another couple years. But right now it's just all about growth, and James and I don't really plan on stopping. Like we got some big goals, like I was talking earlier, 10-year goals and stuff like that. Like they're set pretty high right now, but we hit it 10 years ago, so like why not do it again?
Yeah.
Whole nother stage.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But when you planted those first vines out there, I know you had a goal of doing a lot more, but you probably also, it wasn't like it like you said, Zach, you
fast.
Yeah, well, and you made a lofty goal so that you could go after it. But I'm sure there was a point too when you were making the goal, like,
well, and I've even
man,
gone
is
to
this really possible?
I've gone
or
to my dad and James, like, I feel like I'm getting in too far, guys. Like, like I do this at least a couple times a year, and like
He does.
Should we
He'll
stop?
have a little breakdown and be like, "Yo, am I getting over my head?"
And they're like,
we
"No,
always are
we'll
like, "Dude,
keep going,
fuck
as
it, order
big as
more
you can."
grapes."
Like-
Like, we're always behind him because I don't know, the way our family works is like shit starts to go awry, or like we don't have the money for this or that as we were like starting a business, and it just works out. Like everyone's behind each other here,
Well, and
shit happens.
We've
and
learned to balance that so much more recently, because like I've learned to like not get stressed out about this stuff anymore. Like everything's gonna work out. It's all gonna be good. You can't stress about money. You can't stress about like, are we gonna get all this stuff done in time? Because like, bottom line, like we're alive and breathing on this planet, and like we're fortunate to have that, and it all works out. So like we were like really trying to like figure that out recently, and it's been pretty cool.
And James, when we were walking around down in the barn and you were showing me, the new, it's a presser, right?
New press.
Yeah. So you got the new press, and you had some new tanks and everything down there. You had said two things, and one was that you had actually helped somebody else out, right? And then there was something else that you just kind of mentioned under your breath there that I definitely want you to touch on too. So talk about how you guys, went from the barrel kind of like old school home winemaker system to...
Yeah, so basically starting out, like we were just hobbyists making wine out of our garage, like as sad as it sounds. And I mean,
Not
we're still...
really,
yeah,
dude.
I know.
Our hobby starting out was 3,000 bottles.
Yeah, well, okay, yeah, so it's a significant amount for like someone starting out.
We just had hobby equipment.
But we had hobbyist equipment, and like we upgraded our equipment after a few years, and it was just to like bigger hobbyist equipment. But it still was just like we're just doing things just kind of... Yeah, tons of extra manual labor, basically. A lot of like actual like lifting and stuff. But we've been in our 20s doing all this, so it's like we're able to do it now. So we're like, all right, let's save some money that we can put towards something else and do all this manual labor ourselves and get these people to like our friends, if they want to come out and help us with it, and it saves a lot there. But yeah, so now this past year, we made wine for another winery. Good friend of ours. They're going to be 1723 vineyards, but they are a big part in the winemaking process too. But so their first vintage we helped out with, and their wines are tasting pretty good, and it helped us kind of be able to get some good winemaking equipment this year. And so far from that, like I think what Zach was saying, it makes the process more efficient and allows for the wine to actually be better, even though we were worried we were going through that like crazy small niche like handmade product to something just a tiny bit above that. But we actually have the equipment that it's making the wine even better.
Oh, it's still handmade. It's just
100%,
we're not bucketing 20,000 bottles anymore. We have like some real stuff to move things around and a real press. But we just got to the point where we needed 15 guys to do our whole...
I mean, to give your audience a little background, like my brother and I, like, we're doing 18 acres here, and it's me, him, our few cousins, and Dad, like, when they're here on the weekends. But basically, Zach out here full time during the week. He takes care of 18 acres, made close to 30,000 bottles of wine last year, and we planted those vines, we tended those vines, we built the trellis, we put it in the bottle, we slapped the labels on by hand, no machine. Like, we put capsules on, we put corks on. It's just 100% done by hand. And then even like when it comes to like marketing and social media and stuff, it's just whenever we can throw something up, like we're not paying anyone. It's just organic reach with everything, and trying to do it kind of the right way and just stay with how fast we can grow. Like, we're growing with the vines. We're not trying to
hold
go
on
too
to this
fast.
like close niche thing like as long as we possibly can.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
hopefully never have to completely like veer away from it and commercialize. Like, we want to be like,
if we can
very
hand
involved.
sell, like if I can walk up to someone and sell them that bottle, or like have someone that's related to this family or like invested in helping us out, like if we can sell all our bottles of wine with someone hearing our story, that's like ideal. Like,
Yeah.
we would love to just be able to like keep like spreading the word about what's going on out here and like the community that's kind of being built behind it, because it's super cool. And it's like, it's not just another brand out there like throwing a label on a bottle. Like, we take it from start to finish, and there's a ton of fucking people that are involved in that and helping out, and it's really cool once you kind of dive in and see what goes on behind the scenes.
I'd actually like to see if there was anybody else out there that does it every bit of the process that we do. I'm curious to know about that, because I think we're like one of a kind out here, like what we're doing.
Yeah, there's very few that are going strictly from growing the grapes to like maintaining the farm, building the winery with their bare hands, to putting actual like hand corkers, putting corks in, like at our size, because we're getting into like the commercial size, but we make a very handmade product. So
And so, when it comes to, commercial versus, somebody who's just doing this as a passion and like a hobby, and they're not selling it or anything like that, like, how does that all work? So what's the cutoff? What do you have to have a license for? Did you guys get slapped on the wrist at all and figure out the hard way that you were kind of making more wine than you were technically allowed to be making as just hobbyists?
We went about it the right way. We it was a scramble like right before we opened up our tasting room in December of.
So that part wasn't trial and error.
2013. Yeah, we just. I left that up to my mom. My mom did a really good job with that, the licensing and all that stuff. She really helps me out in the office with that, running the tasting room. And we did all that by the book, but yeah, you got to get a Pennsylvania license, PLCB. You got to get a TTB federal license. We needed to get insurance on our place if we were gonna have people out here drinking and stuff, and go through all the measures.
Health department, everything.
Yeah. So and everything is went pretty well so far, and we're also out here in the middle of nowhere, so like there isn't a lot of people coming out messing with us, but I don't think they really have anything on us. We're doing everything by the book, and it's
he says that like he's looking out, but everything we've been going well, and, seems to be right.
And you guys did that all. You did all. I mean, I'm sure your mom probably helped a good bit with doing all the research and figuring out what forms you had to submit and what.
Yeah, that's been a lot of work. Like, I probably should have hired a lawyer.
I was gonna say that's like a full-time job.
I never got an attorney or anything. I did all my accounting like for the first like 5 years and stuff, and like there's been a lot of extra work. Like, I've learned like as a business owner now, like it might have made a little more sense to like branch out a little bit in that way. But I just didn't have the money. I've been pushing the limits every year. I've owed money to all the suppliers all over the country for all this stuff, and they've been fortunate to dish it out to me. But I just tell them all, like, I'm going to be in this industry for a long time, and we're going to do this.
Yeah,
so
keep hanging.
we just so we did a lot of the stuff on our own and just focused on equipment, like mainly throughout the thing.
Yeah.
Well, and I think like you guys were saying, the people who come out here and help you, they come out here and help you because you've built a relationship with them. And everybody who comes out and picks grapes or prunes or is here for the harvest or whatever it is, it doesn't matter. You've built a relationship with them. And I'm sure it's the same with some of your vendors. Like, you've built a relationship with these people.
Oh, yeah,
and so, your word with them is strong, as opposed to somebody who's kind of just walking into this and saying, oh no, like, I'm going to order these, these vines and I'm good for it. Like, I promise I'm going to be in this industry for a long time.
Yeah, especially the guy that, like, the first couple years we ordered, like, two barrels from in a tank, and now we're ordering like 20 barrels for a year, like this many tanks. And like, he's just seeing, he's like, holy shit, in the last couple years you've done this, and like, you guys haven't taken like on investors and a loan or anything. You're building this organically. So like, yeah, we're someone, like, we look for the long term and like doing this for a very long time, and hopefully the rest of our lives. And the people that we work with, I think, are starting now after years to see that that's where, like, we're someone that you're going to want to probably deal with, which is nice for us.
Yeah, and that's huge, especially in, such a niche industry where, like, relationships are really going to matter. And I mean, word travels too, you know, so.
I mean, like, relationships are just as important with the people you're working with as far as getting this whole thing going, suppliers, stuff like that, as they are as the customers and stuff like that. I mean, we've got a lot of long-term relationships here, and we plan on holding them out for a very long time. Like, we haven't changed up our process in a while. Like I said, we innovate and stuff every year to try and get a little bit better, but for the most part, like, we got a pretty solid core, and we couldn't do it without a lot of these suppliers that have been supporting us and stuff, like, throughout the years.
And so we covered what Zach's up to and kind of working here and there when he can. But James, you've also been working a full-time job, and it's not a full-time job for your uncle or one that's right around the corner. So talk to me a little bit about that and how that came about post-college, because you weren't working, or I'm sorry, you are right now not working in the industry that you went to school for.
Yeah, so I went to Penn State as well as Zach. I wanted to do agriculture, so I went in for nutrition, but because I was a swimmer, I was just always in athletics. But one of my friends was in landscape architecture type classes, and he was just like, I literally draw all day, and I was like total artist, like, when I was growing up. So I really wanted to do something where I was more hands-on. Like Zach said, like, we didn't do the best learning just strictly memorizing books and stuff like that. Like, we wanted to get our hands dirty and get some shit done. So that was the way we went about it. But from there, I went into landscape architecture, did that for like 6 months. Didn't love my boss, so sorry if he's listening. But yeah, I couldn't stick it out there. But I loved what I was doing still. But after that, I was actually dating a girl that did alcohol sales in Philadelphia, selling fine wine and craft spirits, and thought it was the coolest job ever. And I ended up getting a position with her biggest competitor, which Southern Wine Spirits, but it's a cool company, and I've been blessed to work with them. I did a year in the suburbs, and my goal was to get in the city because I knew that all the high-end restaurants and the restaurants that we would want to be in were in Philadelphia, at least to start out, and are like pushing the local Pennsylvania wine thing. And basically, it's been pretty cool, and I took this position. I finally moved into Philadelphia. I sell fine wine and craft spirits to all the high-end restaurants in the city. So far, WayVine isn't in really that many, mostly because I have an obligation to work for my company, and we're in like local distilleries and breweries throughout Philadelphia, but not quite in the restaurant scene yet. But hopefully I build a good enough network that I'll be able to move into that at some point in the future. But I have like the most amazing boss that just understands what we have going on out here, and understands that as long as I'm able to get what I need to get done for the company and am doing the right thing, that she's willing to have me and be able to build this together. And who knows, maybe one day they'll be selling my product too. But it's just pretty cool because I'm building an awesome network there, and met a lot of really good friends in the tech world and the fashion world and a bunch of different worlds in Philadelphia, which has aligned me in with the right people. So I think it's going to benefit us, especially for our sales and just all the marketing and organic reach that we'll get from just the network kind of we're building in Philadelphia will be great. And I'd like it to be kind of like a home base. So like hit Philadelphia and all the suburbs all around it, and as long as we can, and then slowly move into whatever the next city will be. So
Yeah, and there's a ton of places out here too, though, that you guys.
The potential is just huge. I mean, we also have multiple liquor licenses with our license, so we're able to open up tasting rooms, or even if we wanted a small bar, or whatever we kind of want to do with it. So there's tons of potential there. And then, like I said, we're not really in a ton of restaurants right now. Just local places and good friends. So I think once we kind of switch gears and need to start selling some wine. Luckily, we've been selling out most of it year to year up to this point, and once we start really pushing some wine, we'll be all over PA and hopefully start to make a name for it, which is one of the goals, is to kind of really establish a name for Pennsylvania wines out here, get a good name going for it.
And so when you sell out of most of your wine here, who does that go to? Does that go to people that come in to the vineyard, that come and buy it? Do you sell it to some restaurants here? Are you in any retailers?
Yeah, so it goes, I would say, up until this January of last year, 100% of it pretty much was, 90% of it was out of this place, out of our tasting room. But we have our local restaurant, the Sawmill Grill, and the Octorara Hotel. Shout out to them. They support us like no other. They have every one of our varieties on. All of the locals are drinking it there, and it's just really cool that they support it like that. And then
they kind of started it for us, and then we've in the last year probably, what do you think, it's about 60-40ish, 60% out here, 40% in restaurants, and it's just a few places over Chester County, a few places in Philadelphia. We're real choosy about where we're going to be. We want the quality of our product to be coming through in the way that they're serving it and bringing it through to their customers.
So I'll basically it's we have a few real high-end restaurants that reached out to us just because from kind of word of mouth throughout Philadelphia. And then other than those high-end restaurants, which we definitely want serving our wine because they're going to talk about it, they're going to tell our story, they're interacting with the staff because the attention to detail is just so much better at the nicer restaurants. So there's a few like that. And then the local breweries and distilleries are just our favorite because they're other local people doing something like a passion project like what we're doing. We meet the owners. We get to we sell some of their beer out here, and they'll sell our product at their either brewery or distillery. And shout out to East Branch Brewing and Philadelphia Distilling and Evil Genius and
Victory
Plenty
Brewing,
Cafe in the city, Victory, all you guys, everyone's doing so much for us, with sales and moving through it.
Are you guys in Kennett, the Victory in Kennett?
Yep. We're in all the Victories.
So we got the breweries, distilleries, and wineries this year just got a really cool change in the whole lawmaking process, and it's really big for all of us.
I think I just heard about this.
Yeah.
Is it go ahead, you talk about it, because I think
we're allowed to sell beer or mixed drinks or distilled products and stuff out here as long as it's Pennsylvania made, and they're allowed to do the same things in their places. So we get a place like Philadelphia Distilling or Evil Genius where their main focus is on their product that they're making there, but it's nice to
have a nice addition.
Yeah, to have an addition.
Somebody to a quality product.
Somebody comes in for a beer tasting and they bring their girlfriend or vice versa, and they're not too into that, but they got something else to offer there, like our wine, or we would have a beer out here for somebody, and it's just a really cool thing that we're allowed to do now, and it's generating a lot of sales, I think, for a lot of the local breweries, distilleries, wineries, and stuff around here. Everybody's just picked up a lot of each other's products, and we've been spreading it all over the state, and I think it's a really cool law change and a big game changer as far as the industry goes in the last year.
So, funny story, just this past weekend I went and played 3 rounds of golf at a place out in Chambersburg called Penn National. I've been going out there for 5 or 6 years now, and they never sold beer. in the clubhouse or anything. They had, like, if you came through the turn, you could get a hot dog, you could get a soda, you could get chips, you could get whatever snacks you right, but you couldn't get beer, liquor, wine, nothing. So they revamped their whole place, and they got, this liquor license. And I'm looking at the beers. They only have a couple beers that they can offer, and it was Yingling, Trogs, and something else. And then they have some wines that they offer.
Partner up with someone, probably.
So no, they have the same. They basically have this liquor license that you guys have, but for just a retail space.
Wow.
So this is a golf course that's located in Pennsylvania. They have this liquor license, and right now it's only beer and wine, but they could sell beer and wine as much as they want,
as like a local
as
bottle shop.
long as it's made in Pennsylvania. And this was the first time I'd ever heard of it, so it's kind of...
Well, it's the first time that we've had some decent law change in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Pennsylvania is one of the toughest states to do this. You go into Delaware and you can buy a property and get a liquor license to start doing stuff like for a small fee, but out here it's real tough to
Now, are you guys
open up a bar.
affected by the same? Because like over in Jennersville, there's like 2 liquor licenses in Jennersville, and they don't add any more.
No,
So
we have
This is a separate
This
thing.
is
It's
a
different.
limited
Okay.
winery license, and that's what I mean. Like the breweries have a limited brewery license, so like we're all allowed to be intertwined together now and stuff. And as long like we got a really cool township behind us and everything, so like everybody's cool with what we're doing out here. You might get your balls busted a little bit more like in a
city or something like that.
in a city or like a township that like has like some real strict rules and stuff, but we've been real fortunate to like have everybody behind us and letting us do our thing and helping bring business to the community.
And I think it goes with what you guys are doing. Like you're here, you're doing it in the Oxford, like Nottingham area. You're putting it back into the community. You want to have it at the Oat. You want to have it at the Sawmill. Like you want to keep it as much as you want to grow it. You also want to keep it here.
If we could take that restaurant ratio to customers out the vineyard back to 100% at the vineyard, we'd do it in a second. Because like the whole point and like what our brand is and what we're trying to represent as Zach and I and like the Wilson brothers and like our crew out here is we live this lifestyle. Like we're in this 100%. Like as soon as we realized that like we could slow down and start making money and like be successful at this, that's when we went full in as like, who gives a fuck who owns this much percentage, or who gives a fuck how much money's coming in as long as we're able to pay our bills. Like it's more about like we're building like a legacy here, and like we want like our families to be able to grow up on this farm, and like our friends' families, if they still want to stay involved with it and stuff, like give them an opportunity to do something cool out here and venture out in other things. Like I would love to get into distilling, which it would be something I would think would be really cool. Maybe do some more partnerships with local like breweries and distilleries around and do some collaboration stuff and just like kind of, I don't know, keep pushing this local vibe and I don't know, getting people more invested in the local scene, because like I know people our age are really getting into quality stuff, and there's nothing more quality than 100% estate made product, which I think there's a few people doing it, and we'd like to really like get people drinking and like enjoying the quality stuff. So.
Yeah, and I think it also goes to like the small batch and craft beer had that big explosion, and small time breweries just brewing certain amounts of certain beers and keeping it in where it was made. And I think that's it's really big right now.
Yeah, I mean, and that's what we were just talking about that earlier. Like the beer scene is unreal, and the amount of support locally that people get for the beer scene is just, it's fucking crazy. Like all of these restaurants, like they pretty much only want to serve local beer, which is so cool. And like we're all about it. Like we're even, obviously we're serving all local at our place, but it's just like such a big scene. So hopefully there's been a little bit of like, not pushback anymore, I'd say, because now our name's getting out there where like I'm at, but there's been a lot of pushback just for like Pennsylvania wines and stuff, but there are a ton of people making great Pennsylvania wine, and I think once like there's a few people that get big enough to be seen, and hopefully like we're one of them, but to get like a better taste for Pennsylvania wine in people's mouth, and it'll be the same way. And it'll go the same way as the beer went, and people will be like requesting it when you go out to a restaurant.
Yeah.
The problem is that Pennsylvania's first generation growers around here. People have been growing grapes around here since like the 1970s, 80s, and like very few places and stuff. And like we have like a first generation knowledge of like how it's going to work out here. We've been fortunate enough to, really grasp like a lot of people's mistakes and like change things. But like there's a lot of good quality wine, like James said, coming out of this place. I think that we're just a little behind the curve, and there might have been like some poor flavor put into people's mouths in previous years. We're not like a 4 or 5 generation Napa Valley, like in the perfect climate of the world to grow certain varieties, but we definitely have some competition for those guys, and I think people are starting to see it. And I think that the more like knowledge and experience that all the growers and winemakers get out in this region, like the better name we're going to be getting for ourselves, like soon enough, like very, very soon. I think we're going to start getting a lot more respect for Pennsylvania wine here in the next couple years.
Yeah, basically, I'll say it for Zach. Go find a bottle of WayVine, or like you can ask us like what we would recommend. But there's like some people would recommend you taste, or like especially ours, like give our wine a try, and you'll understand that like quality wine can come from Pennsylvania and like
from Pennsylvania,
anywhere,
Texas,
and like
anywhere.
obviously like there's tons of places killing it in Virginia, and you hear about the Finger Lakes all the time, and like we're right in between. We have very similar climates, and there's certain varietals that just absolutely do phenomenal out here, and it lends towards our old world style of making wine, which is just like
we're just developing a flavor.
Yeah,
like,
and there's like a Pennsylvania wine.
People are going to be relating wine to Pennsylvania, like they're going to relate wine to Virginia, like they're going to relate wine to Napa Valley or France or the Bordeaux region. Like everybody's got their own flavor and stuff coming, and it's just all about like whether you can make a good quality wine in that region and develop a good flavor. And
it takes time.
So I think we got a lot of really good things coming to Pennsylvania. There's a lot of good people trying to bring this thing like in full swing and show like the potential of this area. I mean, Pennsylvania's beautiful. I've traveled I don't go anywhere anymore, but like I've been to a few places in the country, like out of the country once or twice, and I always just want to come back to PA. Like I love it here. We got all 4 seasons. We got a little bit of variety for everything, and I think we're gonna really make a good name for ourselves out here. I'd like to. That's all that matters to me. I just want to be remembered one day as like the wine guy. That's really like my ultimate goal in it all.
Yeah, I think this like we've talked about it at different points, but I think like as like a very long-term goal, and there's multiple long-term goals we have. Like we'd love to be. I mean, it kind of already is happening. Like we made wine for someone this past year, but to be like the vineyard consultant, the winery consultant, the person on the east
for this region.
For this region, the person on the East Coast can come and ask some questions, and like. And we have the knowledge at that point, and like I think we're working towards that. I'm not going to say that we know everything or anything like that. I think we're learning, but I think we're very approachable people that can get some more people interested in what we're doing and keeping things. Yeah, we got time. We're 25. That's something like we talk about all the time. Like we're 25. Like let's put it all into this, because if it fails, we'll do something else. We'll figure it out. We'll find a way. Like there's always something that you can do to like, whether it's getting a job or it's starting your passion project. Like there's always something out there that you're able to do to get by.
Well, if it does fail, good luck to anybody that has to tear all these grapevines and trellis out here, 'cause that's going to be a job in itself.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I want to get an answer from both of you guys on this, because you kind of both came in to the whole WayVine, on different roads and at different points in your lives and everything. So the whole theme for this podcast is it's a do it for yourself podcast. And it's not
Is that your thing, doing it for you?
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
always wondered who that is.
Yeah, no, that's that's me. Yeah, that's
As you
me.
can tell, James is the one talking to doing it for yourself on Instagram.
Yeah.
But Zach's
So-
got his head's in the vine.
Yeah, he's in the vines, and that's all right. I mean, somebody has to do it, right?
Yeah.
So, and it's not, when people do it for themselves, they're not doing something selfishly. They're not going and doing something in a selfish manner. It's something that they've always wanted to do. James, you've mentioned passion project various times. So it's just something that you've always wanted to do. You have always wanted to come back to this farm, and you always wanted to do something with this land that you have here. You weren't sure what it was going to be, but you figured it out. So my question to you is, if you had somebody who was standing in front of you, they knew what they wanted to do, whether it be a triathlon, whether it be, planting vines for the first time, whether it be, traveling across the country in a van, doesn't matter what it is, right? But they're on the fence. They're like, oh, I don't want to, I'm not sure. I don't know. And they're like, you know what? I'm going to send Zach a message. I remember he ordered 3,200 vines and he had no fucking clue what he was doing. Like, what do you say to that person?
All right, so my whole thing with this whole business and my whole life anymore is keep it simple. Like, and that works for me. It might not work for everybody. Like, some people are a little bit more complex, but like, I just try to keep things simple, and like, you just got to work hard. And like I was talking about, like stress management and stuff like that, you got to learn to manage it, and like just realize that we're alive in this world. Like I said earlier, like you couldn't be. What else is there? So like, bottom line is, you always got that to fall back on. So like, why not just work as hard as you can, and take advantage of the time that we got here? And yeah, man. I mean, I think just hard work, like simplicity, innovation is very important. Like, you got to keep changing things. You can't just get set in your ways. Out here we do the same repetitive process all the time, but like, James and I will go out there and I'm like, I'm not trying to tell you what to do, dude. I know you know how to do this, but like, let's just go over it again. And like, we do that all the time, back and forth, and communicate, and like,
And not
we
get pissed off at each other.
we simplify the process. And I'm also like a big proponent in when it comes to like management styles, like not being like a hierarchy, being more like a teamwork type thing. Not having some guy that's ahead of all these people, who's ahead of all these people, screaming down at them, making them hate their jobs and stuff. Like, we go out, like, we'll work for a couple hours and stuff. And I mean, we also have volunteers and stuff, so it makes sense to do this. But like, I would even do it with paid employees, like go toss a frisbee or go for a jog or lift some weights or something, blow off some steam, come back and get some real work done. And yeah, I think just like keeping it simple and like being happy and positive about life. Positivity is so important. And the bottom line is hard work. Like, just putting that extra hour in every night, like where you're just, you don't want to squat down at one more vine and pull stuff off, or for any occupation out there, like, regardless of what it is, just like put in that extra little bit of effort every day, and like, it'll add up. Like, you're depositing bills into the bank. Like, the same, like, I used to be big into weightlifting and stuff like that, and I heard that once, that you're constantly making deposits to get like a small withdrawal every once in a while. And like, it's the same thing out here. And that's my biggest thing for anybody out there. Like, keep it simple, work hard, and love your life, and do what you want to do, because you still got the rest of your life. You can always change and do whatever you want.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how much more I could say on that. I mean, honestly, just like as a strict one-to-one to your people, like, fucking do it. Like, you don't hear about people doing it. Like, there's not a lot of people like Zach that just fucking ordered 3,000, 4,000 grapevines and did it. And like, you fail, and hopefully you're younger, but if not, like, you can still fail and like rebound. And like, when it comes to that, like everyone can do it. And like, it basically, you go in and you follow your passion. If there's something like you really want to do, you're able to do that on your spare time. Like, you got an hour a day, you got 2 hours a day to add something. Like, we get home from work, like I get home from Philadelphia at like 7-8 o'clock at night, and this dude's a maniac out in the vineyard still until the sun goes down, and then we go down to the winery and do shit down there. So like, you can squeeze.
Or we cut grass on.
Yeah, we don't have, like, literally neither of us have a TV. Like, we don't watch TV. Like, this is what we're doing, and like, we put all our time into it. And for the people out there that like want to do something, like, you just got to do it. You got to like take a couple sacrifices. Don't hang out with you. I have 4 best friends, and they're cousins and a brother, and they're like truly my only true, like, through and through friends. I could definitely have plenty of other best friends, but like, they're my true friends. And yeah, I see them every weekend, and that's all. Like, I love them, and like, I can spend my time working and being with them. And you got to make some sacrifices in life to get ahead, and we're pretty decent at doing it, I think.
I also have one more good piece of advice, I think, just from what I've learned over the last 10 years to give to, your followers and stuff. When things get tough, like, things come in waves. Like, we've been through all kinds of obstacles, lawsuits,
Lawsuits, storms, lightning, pissed off neighbors,
crop
every
damage,
fucking thing you could think of.
And like, when shit hits the fan, it's tough. And then guess what? Something else is going to be tough right after that, and something else is going to be tough. And then you might get like a small window where everything's starting to work out a little bit, and you're like, yeah, hell yeah, like, we don't got to worry about anything anymore. And then guess what? Another big wave comes, and there's 3 more setbacks. But if you want to be who you want to be and like achieve those goals and stuff one day, like, you got to learn to cope with that, and you got to learn that like, you're going to get through every single one. Like, right now I got 3 different things going on that like are holding me back a little bit. Like, that's nothing more than the other 3 from the year before, or the other 3 from but like, and it's just to the point where like, well, I'm going to worry about this one first, then I'll worry about that. And like, you just got to get through it, like, and learn to cope with it, and take advantage of those couple months where things are all working out, and then the rest of the year shit's going to be hitting the fan, and like, you're going to be like, is this really worth it, or are we going to, and you're going to get through it. That's huge. Like, it's very hard to, hard to learn that, and like, and just get through it all the time, and get to where you want to be. But you're going to be there. You're going to be who you want to be and who you are.
Like, looking at the 3 things that you have to deal with right now for this year, and then looking at the 3 things that you had to deal with last year, looking at these 3 things, you could probably look back and laugh at the 3 things from 2-3 years ago, because that wave, you probably felt like you were drowning when it happened then. Yeah. But it
some of them are financially,
you're laying the foundation.
Some of them are financially like impact. Like, some of them are emotional. Some of them are physical. Like, and like, there's just a combination of all these different, like, just all these different things going into it, and you just got to balance it out. You just got to balance out life, and work is work. We work because we don't know what else to do, but like, life is life, and like,
but we make it all fun.
Like, and that's the thing. You got to balance out.
Fucking have fun in life.
You got to balance out your work and your life, and have a great time, and be who you want to be, and like, let's make it as long as we can on this planet, and because even if you are super famous and like, you do make a name for yourself 1,000 years from now, 100 years, who knows? Nobody's gonna remember you. So like, make it last while you can.
Yeah, even if it's at like 1 or 2 people that are remembering you. Like, that's how kind of, well, you look at things out here. Like, we have a group come out, and we have a dinner, and like, or we have like our normal tasting and everything, and they're hanging out when we're closing, and we're just like, you guys want to just hang out as like friends and family, and they end up hanging out with us through the night, and like, Dave will cook them dinner as like just friends hanging out, and like, live your life like that. Like, be open to new people.
Yourself, right?
Yeah, do it for yourself. Exactly. Yeah, you got to be open to the new relationships.
You got to be selfish, and you got to be modest, and you got to balance it out, and you got to fucking live life to the potential. Don't get struck by lightning or anything.
Like our rose.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I just want to say thank you guys very much for having me out. Thank you for the tour of the whole property. I mean, that was insane. It was really cool to check out, the cabin and just see all the different vines and see the vines that have been here since the beginning and see like the new ones that are like the babies and, like they're getting ready to start really producing some grapes. And of course,
Dude,
thank you very much for the wine, because I'm usually not a Merlot kind of guy, but this is this is delicious. So you guys weren't lying. Come,
Merlot,
yeah, the Merlot, come and check it out.
It was a pleasure, and like I can see the enthusiasm and like the questions you asked us. Like I think this was like one of the first things James and I have done like this, and we listened to a couple podcasts to get through the day and stuff out there, and like this is really cool. I think this went well. It was smooth. I feel really good about it.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
It's really good to see you, man.
Yeah, it was good to see you guys
you're
too.
Looking great, and
thank you.
You look happy, and that's all that matters.
Absolutely. Might be the WayVine.
A little bit of WayVine.
Yeah, absolutely.
I got it.
Yeah, before we check out, I just definitely want to, just because I have the opportunity and some people might hear this, I would love to fucking send a huge shout out to, all the Philly people that have helped us out, from all the restaurants to local breweries and distilleries to our local restaurants like the Sawmill and Octorara.
Yeah, there's too many of you guys.
Yeah, to our family members, to our friends, to everyone that fucking makes this place go. Anyone that's ever bought a bottle, you're the reason that we're fucking doing it, and we're gonna keep doing it. So thank you so much to every single one of them. And yeah, Ian, absolutely fucking love following what you've been doing, and you're doing awesome, obviously, and hopefully you keep going in this path and we'll grow together and do some cool shit.
Yeah, bro.
You're going to come down and do the Atlantic City, right?
Doing it for yourself.
Yeah, man. Maybe we'll get some Ironmans in there.
Appreciate it. Well, thanks so much, guys.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Well, people, we're finished. That was my interview with the Wilson brothers of WayVine. I just want to take a minute again to say thank you to both Zach and James for jumping on the podcast with me. This was the first time that I had two guests that I did in an in-person interview, and they were absolutely crushing it. They did amazing. We had a little bit of a live audience there as well. They had some friends hanging out, so it was really cool to see the whole vineyard. I actually got a tour of it before we started the podcast. It was amazing to get the chance to taste the wine that they had, made themselves. I saw where the wine was being made and everything. So, it was really awesome to go and just have a whole experience while I was there, instead of just, hey, show up, let's sit down, do the podcast, and then, you be on your way. Not that it's been like that for any of the other podcasts I've had, but it was just nice to be able to kind of get the full experience while I was there. And I would love to hear your thoughts on this episode and how you think this one went, what you thought of the WayVine story, and if you are a wine drinker. Because I am not a huge wine drinker, but the Merlot that I had while I was there, let me tell you, it was very, very delicious. So thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening to this episode. I do promise to have an episode uploaded next week on time, whether it be Sunday or Monday. And until then, I will see you guys next week.